Metropolitan Planning Organization to order, otherwise known as CAMPO. May I have a roll call, please?
Chair Bagwell.
Here.
Vice. Oh,
Here.
sorry.
Sorry. I am definitely here. Yeah, times three there. That was quite the echo.
Let's mute you. Vice Chair Novak.
Here.
Member Dodson.
Here.
Member Erb. No, not remote.
Just West.
Member Henderson.
I am here, thank you.
Member Maloney. Here. Member Schutte.
Here.
Ex officio Member Rosenberg. Thank you. A quorum's present.
Thank you so much. We're now on to agenda item number 3, which is our opening public comment. Do I have any public comment, Mr. French? Yep. Thank you. I saw you doing it. Mm-hmm.
Denny French, Carson City, Nevada. Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Board. I would have brought this up earlier to you. I'm sorry. The Carson Wandering Skipper Jack. I'm sorry. It's Carson City Wandering Skipper Butterfly. And I wasn't able to talk to the individual. I had been waiting for hopefully some updates, and so I had to approach now. So otherwise it wouldn't have been part of my opening. My opening is thank you for all showing up and be careful on your way home. Thank you.
Thanks. Do I have any other public comment? No? Okay, then we're going to move along on to our minutes for December 13th, 2023. Does anyone have any corrections or changes? Seeing none, I'll accept a motion for approval.
Move approval.
Second.
I have a motion by Ms. Maloney and a second by Mr. Dotson. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed, say no. That let the record reflect it was unanimous. I heard Wes. Okay, we're now on to agenda item 5A, which is discussion and possible action regarding nomination and election of a chairperson and vice chair for this calendar year for CAMPO. Do we have discussion? Answers? Nominations? I am. If you want me to. It's up to you.
I move to appoint Lori Bagwell as chairperson for a one-year term expiring December 31st, 2024.
Do you want to handle the, yes, that's, is there a second?
I will
I'll
second.
second that.
Okay.
It's been seconded
Wes.
and thirded. We got great echoes going on today. Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any
Aye.
opposed, say no. Okay, let the record reflect it was unanimous. We now need a vice chair. Greg, you want to stay?
Yep.
Yep, we're
If everybody
great team.
agrees.
And I'm going to hand one off and it pretty soon to you. Okay,
I move to appoint Greg Novak as vice chairperson for a one-year term expiring December 31st, 2024.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for approval to appoint Greg Novak as the vice chair. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Let the record reflect that was unanimous. Okay, we're now on to this is a big agenda item. Agenda item 5B, discussion and presentation regarding various funding resources available to CAMPO, including fund sources, annual amounts, use of funding, and future funding projects. Mr. Martinovich.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Chris Martinovich, Transportation Manager. I wanted to, I hope everybody can see this. Looks like it is up. So Commissioner Henderson, I hope you can see it as well. Wanted to go through a summary of CAMPO's funding. I believe it's been a while since this board has gotten a general update on where CAMPO gets its funding and how it's used and the restrictions and limitations and all the nuances of transportation funding. But I also wanted to bring this item because there have been some changes with the passage of the infrastructure law back in 2021 that increased funding and opened up some new pots of money and changed a few things. So I thought it would be appropriate to just kind of give a summary of where CAMPO gets its funding and discuss some of those limitations. So I'll be really focusing on four main areas today: Federal Highway Administration funding under 23 Code of Federal Regulations, Federal Transit Administration under 49 USC, that's the United States Code, and then state sources and local match. Starting with the Federal Highway Administration, CAMPO receives a majority of its funding for operations, planning, and roadway projects from the Federal Highway Administration, primarily through NDOT, through various agreements. This is various agreements including the Unified Planning Work Program or Surface Transportation Agreements or local public agency agreements, all generally come through NDOT. There are some, periodic discretionary grants that may or may not come through NDOT, Tiger, Raise, being some discretionary grants the city has recently received that don't come through NDOT, and CAMPO is a coordinating, participating agency on those. So they may or may not, discretionary grants come through NDOT, but the majority of federal highway funding comes through the DOT. The primary sources of those funding, the ones we can generally count on year over year, are Metropolitan Planning Funds, our STBG funds, our TAP funds, and our Carbon Reduction Plan funds. And the Carbon Reduction Plan funds are new under the infrastructure law, a new funding pot created and apportioned to CAMPO. Other miscellaneous funding comes in for project-specific things and discretionary grants, and those usually are one-time project-specific elements and not a year-over-year source. Going into those sources a little bit more detail, the first one there is Metropolitan Planning Funds. So these funds are apportioned to the state and distributed to each of the four MPOs within the state of Nevada through an agreed-upon formula. So the other MPOs being RTC Washoe, RTC Southern Nevada, and TRPA, and ourselves. And we have an agreed-upon formula to distribute those planning funds. We coordinate with NDOT and receive those funds each year. This is our funding for our Unified Planning Work Program. This is the staff and administration costs for the metropolitan planning activities. We receive about $430,000 per year, and there's some match requirements with that. Generally speaking, it's around 95% federal dollars and 5% local match. However, recently, the FTA and the FHWA have come to agreement that certain tasks, like complete streets, are 100% federal share, no percent local match. So projects like our US 50 corridor study or other complete streets projects, we're able to fund those with 100% federal dollars and no local match required. The next funding source on there is our STBG, or Surface Transportation Block Grant Funds. These are funds that are apportioned to the state based on population. CAMPO falls into the population bucket of 50 to 200,000 people. We're the only MPO that fits that population bucket. Again, this is not a new funding source, but it's a new bucket created under the infrastructure law. Previously, the population threshold was 5 to 200,000, and so CAMPO got a proportional share of that 5 to 200,000. However, under the infrastructure law, they changed those, and now we're at 50 to 200,000 as being the only agency in the state in that population range. NDOT and CAMPO have an agreement to essentially all the money that the state's allocated comes directly to CAMPO. So we receive that. We receive 100% of that. This is by far the most flexible funding source that CAMPO receives, but it must be used on regional roads. It cannot be used to reconstruct local roads, only regional collector and arterial classified roads. Generally, we receive around $1.3 million per year, and we distribute that to our local agencies of Carson City, Lyon County, and Douglas County. We do that on an annual rotating basis, depending on need and match available at the time. The match for this, similar to planning funds, is 95% federal and 5% local, and the local agencies must provide that match, not CAMPO. CAMPO is not providing that match. The local agencies do. Moving to other funding sources, our Transportation Alternatives Program. This program is apportioned to the state based again on population. This one is relatively small, and we coordinate with NDOT, and NDOT pools these funds for CAMPO with larger projects to create larger, more cohesive projects. As noted there, it's about $120,000 per year. That's not a very big project. And so we work with NDOT, and we allow them to pool and use those funds in a variety of ways. Transportation alternative funds must be used to promote alternative modes of transportation, bicycles, pedestrians, safe routes to school. Carson City uses this funding to fund its Safe Routes to School program, but it cannot be used to reconstruct roadways or widen roadways or those types of projects. We use this.
Chris, can you, just when you say pooled, will you give me a little more perspective on that? Pooled meaning we let all the TAP funds that come with another entity being pooled, or what do you mean by that?
NDOT receives a bunch of different TAP funds through a bunch of different sources. One of them is called TAP Flex, which means it's generally flexible to be used anywhere in the state. So rather than just have the money, the $120,000 come to CAMPO, we work with NDOT and pool that $120 with their TAP Flex funds to identify and prioritize larger, more cohesive projects. As an
So
example,
we're still always getting our 120, we just may combine it and
Correct.
take another funding source. Not
120
that we're sharing ours somewhere else.
exactly. The $120,000 still has to be used in the population area of ours. It's just not necessarily coming to us to prioritize our own internal projects.
More sense, yeah.
The share on this is, again, 95.5. The last funding source here is the carbon reduction plan funds. These are apportioned again to CAMPO based on population. These are funds that must be used to promote reducing carbon in the transportation sector. They can be used for projects such as pathways, signal operations, congestion management, transit facilities, and similar projects. Again, these can't be used to widen roads or reconstruct pavement. That's not an eligible use for this fund. We receive around $155,000 per year, and currently we've programmed 2 years of this funding to the DMV multi-use path to supplement that TAP funding to make sure we can construct that project. Again, same 95.5 match. Other miscellaneous funding, we do get some miscellaneous funding for different projects. Example of that is our DMV Path project, again, TAP Flex funds, our US 50 Complete Streets project in coordination with NDOT for state planning funds. So those are, one-time project-specific funding sources. We are completing a local road safety plan with the hope, fingers crossed, that we get additional future highway safety improvement or HSIP funding through the completion of that, opening up the door for that. We have discretionary grant funds that we've received. These are more city-specific. These aren't CAMPO grants, but as an example, Tiger Grant, which went to Carson City for South Carson, Ray's Grant, and Carson City was recently awarded a Safe Streets and Roads for All grant to update the Safe Routes to School Master Plan. So other detail of project-by-project funding is listed in the Transportation Improvement Program. Periodically, other funding sources do come in, but they're not something we can count on an annual basis, really focusing on those that we can generally use year over year.
Chris, could I interject before you get to transit?
Sure thing.
But NDOT uses federal funds within the CAMPO area as well. All the work on Highway 50, National Highway in HPP, or there's bridge replacement money too. But he's going over the ones that we have main control over.
Correct. Switching agencies to the Federal Transit Administration, which is the other federal agency that provides a lot of funding to CAMPO. A portion of CAMPO's FTA funding comes through NDOT, and a portion is directly apportioned to CAMPO. The direct apportioned money is through the FTA Section 5307 funding. The ones that come through NDOT are those listed there on the screen. And the reason these come through NDOT is, again, the population threshold. These are apportioned based on population, and they come to NDOT, but being the only MPO of our 50 to 200,000 size, the state has agreed to give us that monies for us to spend. So we have general discretion over that in coordination with NDOT's transit team to, use and program these 5339 and 5310 funds.
Is there any other MPO in danger of getting to our threshold?
There is not.
Oh, good. It's like, oh, yes, 2,000 more people and they'll be in. Okay,
Okay, so, yeah, and that.
right.
To build on that,
Should-
so if there were 2 or 3 MPOs
And
within that
We
threshold.
would have to
it would
revisit
go
our,
Via,
yes.
and, okay,
Competition.
And that's the same with Federal Highways STBG funding. Should a new MPO pop up in the 50 to 200,000 range, population range, we would have to discuss our agreements with NDOT and find the equitable share. Again, it's population-based, so if the population of the amount of people in the $50 to $200,000 population bucket increases, right now we're around 60-something thousand is our population. If the bucket doubles, right, then there's going to be double the money coming into that bucket to then distribute out again. So a new MPO not only, means we distribute money more, but it means more money's coming in to begin with. And that's sort of hard to describe, but it's not a one creates, it's halved, right? There's a whole formula based on population that has to be reevaluated. So we're not in danger of that until at least 2030. It's my understanding. Diving into these specific funds, starting with 5307, this is the Urbanized Area Formula Grant from the FTA. These funds are directly apportioned to CAMPO based on population and the efficiency of our operation. There are some incentives to be more efficient. We receive those. We generally get around $1.6 million per year, and it has to be used, well, it's generally used for jack operations, administration of our staff, vehicle maintenance, and other transit-related projects, whether that's sidewalk reconstruction, bike facilities along transit routes, bus stops, signs, shelters, security. Those types of features are eligible to be used under 5307 funding. The match for FTA is generally less than Federal Highway Administration. So for this funding source, the local match is 50% for operating and administration and 20% for vehicle purchases, projects, and similar features. So a little bit of difference here between the two federal agencies, but generally speaking, there is still a large federal share. Section 5303 funding, these are the FTA planning funds. These are consolidated with the Federal Highways planning funds. So I already talked about that 430 we get for planning. These funds we get through 5303 are already included in that. There's nothing special or different with these. They're consolidated.
Hey, Chris, going back to that last slide,
Sure thing.
is there still that minimum that you have to spend a certain percent of 5307 on safety and security?
There is. We have to spend a minimum of 10% of the amount, or is it 1%? 1%. 1% of the amount on safety and security.
So we can't just use it all to run the buses?
We can't use it all to run the buses.
Thank you.
Thank you. $1 makes sense. 10%'s a lot.
$16,000.
Yeah.
Right.
5339 funding. This is funding for bus and bus-related facilities. It can only be used for bus and bus-related facilities, things like purchasing buses, maintaining buses, storage facilities of buses, our administration yard, our storage yard, fleet facility. It could be used for bus stops, bus shelters. It could be used for something like the transit transfer center downtown, things like that, where buses are parking or shelters or signs, associated features related to that. We get around, again, through NDOT, $115,000 per year. The local match varies on this from 80 to 90% federal, 10 to 20% local, depending on the project type. We've discussed at this board 5339 funding in the past and awarding that, if you recall, to Douglas County. I think that one was a 90% match because certain ADA compliant vehicles and activities are 90%, where standard or more 80%. The match varies is what I'll say, and it can vary in those ranges, but generally it's in that area.
Ms. Warren, please let the record reflect that Mr. Erb had joined the online.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
Next one there is our Section 5310 funding. This is funding for the mobility of seniors and individuals with disabilities. It can only be used for purposes related to those groups. So CAMPO and JAC work together to identify the operations of our paratransit services. So the majority of this funding goes to paratransit operations. 170,000 a year. Local match on this is 20%, so 80% federal share. As I mentioned, 5310, 5339 are distributed to the state. CAMPO is the only MPO with the population less than 200,000, so NDOT provides those funds to us. Other funds that are out there within the CAMPO region include Section 5311 funds. These are funds that go directly to the state, and then they distribute to rural agencies like DART in Douglas County. CAMPO doesn't use or receive any of these funds. Thinking about potential expansion if it were ever desired to Lyon County, for instance, this would be a funding source we'd probably dig into a little bit more to see if CAMPO could receive that for providing service in the rural parts of Lyon County. We haven't investigated that, don't have any more details, but as an example, there's other FTA funding out there should transit ever want it to be expanded or changed in its location. Local match for JAC operations, they have varying matches as I've highlighted, comes from various sources, general fund, state grants, which we have an item on the Regional Transportation Commission tonight related to that. Special purpose funds like the Redevelopment Authority and the agreements with Carson City to reconstruct sidewalks in certain redevelopment areas. We have miscellaneous revenue through advertising, sale of advertising on the buses and the shelters. And I will note that fares cannot be used as local match, but they do reduce the cost of our operation. So we have a cost, we subtract fares, and then we apply the local match. That's generally the way that works.
And why do you think it is that they don't want fares used as match?
I think it has to do, I don't know the details, but I think it has to do with it's a revenue. And so they want the savings as equal as we want the savings. They're paying 50% of the cost, we're paying 50% of the cost. We're both recouping a portion of that through fare. So it's just being applied equally on both sides.
Because you're taking it off the top.
Taking it off the top.
Okay.
We have received discretionary grants in the past through the FTA, primarily through the 5339B program, which is the competitive 5339 program. 5339A is the one that's apportioned directly. B is the competitive process. And then there's a C, 5339C, which is only for low or no emission vehicles and associated facilities. And to be eligible for this, we need a zero emission transition plan, and CAMPO has initiated that study as discussed at our last board meeting, allowing us to be eligible to receive and pursue grants under this particular federal funding source. When we think about state and local sources for CAMPO, there are no state dedicated sources to CAMPO. We do receive, thank you, NDOT, Kevin, for the funding you do provide for specific projects and have over the years, and we look forward to that coordination to continue. We are also potentially looking at, and we have done this in the past, potentially swapping funds, state funds, federal funds for efficiency purposes to make sure we're being compliant and meeting federal obligation and federal requirements. So all of those conversations are always ongoing and looking for opportunities to do those types of things. On the local sources, there is no dedicated funding on a local source for CAMPO. As I mentioned, the matching funds are provided by CAMPO's local agencies of Carson City, Lyon County, and Douglas County. And again, that's generally 95% federal, 5% match or less in some cases. So these last couple of slides, I talked a lot about funding and—
I just have a question, I'm sorry,
Oh,
on that
yes,
last slide.
absolutely.
So do we have enough federal funds to run transit as requested within CAMPO? Do we have a deficit? Do we have a surplus?
CAMPO receives more federal funds than we can spend with our local matching dollars. So we have sufficient federal funds to operate our transit system as it is.
And as different jurisdictions are looking at funding shortfalls for, say, roads, is there any instances that you have found where FTA funding has been eligible to convert to funding that could be spent on roads? Is there any way that this could be used by the agencies?
My understanding and some coordination, I appreciate the question because it's an important question to answer, is that converting funds from FTA to FHWA types of that conversion from one federal agency to another is nearly impossible. Converting from federal highways to FTA sources is doable and occurs by many agencies quite regularly. And maybe, Vice Chair Novak, if you had background on that. But the research I've done and the conversations I've had with different federal agencies on that topic is FTA to FHWA is pretty much never done if it's even possible. So that's unfortunate. However, I am working with the FTA to see about eligibility of 5339 funding, expanding the definition of bus facilities to include things like sidewalk, curb ramps within that half mile of a bus stop. If I can get some, if I can get some buy-in from them on that, there's another potential use of excess transit funds that we could put into roadway type improvements. So we're looking into that. I'm 50-50 on if we're going to get the go-ahead on that, but fingers crossed.
I was aware that you were doing that. You are leading the charge nationally on those types of discussions, and we're fortunate to have you.
Oh, thank you. Looking at other items here, so we have all that funding. How do we go about identifying projects? I'm not going to go into a detailed project prioritization method other than to say we have a number of plans that help us do that. We have the Regional Transportation Plan. We have the Unified Planning Work Program. The RTP is the Long-Range Transportation Plan. The Unified Planning Work Program is that document that says what we're going to be working on within a one-year cycle. The TIP, the Transportation Improvement Program, is that short-term prioritized list of projects that they include the federal source and the dollar amounts for those projects. We always work through our public participation plan and community engagement, and I'll discuss on that in just a moment related in Transportation Manager's Report. Continuing to be efficient in our JAC operations means we're continuing to receive additional, albeit small, extra FTA money for our operations. We work with our local agencies, Carson City, Lyon County, Douglas County, on their own agency needs. For instance, Carson City has a pavement management plan that identifies in the process by which projects are prioritized. Working with NDOT on the state facilities through the One Nevada process. And then, of course, we track discretionary grants and pretty strategic about how we think about that. And I know I've shared the paper version of this in the past. This is just a snippet of our grant tracking tool. We have all of our projects there on the left side of the screen, and then all the federal sources and potential grant sources across that, and we kind of track on an ongoing basis. Is this project going to be eligible? Is it eligible compared with the state? We work with the state and the other MPOs to make sure we're not always competing against each other. We're trying to be strategic in that and target the right projects that are going to be competitive at the right time with the right funding source. So it's a lot of work to do federal grants, so we tend to be pretty cautious on these. But it's something we do monitor. Thinking ahead, thinking long-term, as I mentioned, many of these formulas are population-based. So if we grow faster than the state or the nation, we're going to receive more money. If we're growing slower than the state or the nation, we're going to generally receive less money. They're reviewed every so often. Federal transportation funding, the IIJA, the infrastructure law, was a huge investment of transportation funding when it was passed in 2021. There was a significant increase in funding immediately when it was passed, and it had, as passed, generally 2 to 3% year-over-year increases in all funding categories, some more than others. And so to this point, that's occurred. We've seen that increase year-over-year from that initial jump. That is offset, unfortunately, by the rising costs of construction prices and labor costs and things like that. So we're probably right back to where we were prior to the law, but we didn't lose, correct. Congressional budgets are somewhat in the air, right? We know Congress is working through a fiscal year 24 budget. The Federal Highway Administration is less impacted than the Federal Transit Administration, so I don't know where we are on the budget. I know that there was a framework reached, but I don't know the details of that and what it means for transportation funding, but there is some of that plays into it, and then, of course, competitive grants. But ultimately, CAMPO works with its partnerships and appreciates its partnerships, particularly with NDOT, local agencies, the FTA, and the FHWA, to make sure we're not only following the law and the federal rules, but putting out the best projects that we can and using the money the best way we can. So that's what I have. I'm happy to take any additional questions.
Does anybody have any additional questions? How about online? Let me check really quick. How about Wes or John? Do you guys have any questions?
Madam Chair, not a question, but a comment. Thank you for the presentation. That was very, very informative. I certainly appreciate it. I got a probably will have a couple of questions for you that I'll approach you offline on.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Mr. Erb, do you have any?
No, I do not. Very, very informative presentation. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Shooty.
I just, to revisit the grant matrix and just a statement, thank you for discussing really that it is a strategic process with when to apply for a grant and a project and the timing, how that comes together. I think that is sometimes forgotten in public discourse, and so I appreciate you saying that again.
Sure. I did want to know one thing, if I may, Madam Chair, just real quick. I went through a bunch of funding. I wanted to give the high-level numbers. So year over year, we generally receive, in fiscal year '23, the money we can count on, we received, or been apportioned, I should say, $2.04 million. So $2,040,000 in FTA money, or in Federal Highway Administration, FHWA money, and $2.2 million in FTA money. So that's fiscal year '23 apportionments. So that's a total of about $4.24 million to Campo in fiscal year '23, just as a high-level number for anyone curious.
Well, I think it's actually an important number because the public is continually, maybe under false pretenses of what we have, from what sources do we have it. We have to also provide assistance, obviously, in Lyon County and Douglas County, so that whole 4.22 million doesn't belong to Carson City, because we do projects there too, but I think it's important at some point maybe even to note that, that we're handling it regionally, but that's the dollars federally, like you said, that we can count on. And to my knowledge, really out of that, other than maybe a little bit around a bus stop, potentially, we really cannot use it on local roads.
Yeah, generally that's correct.
I think that's just another discussion point, so it's clear to people. It's not that we're not prioritizing a neighborhood road that might be in worse shape. I don't have the authority to use this money. Those that give us the money put a whole bunch of rules and strings on it and tell us, you can only use it for this or for that. And so I really appreciate the presentation and the opportunity for the public to learn more about our road funding and where it comes from. So nice job.
I've got a couple comments as well. I didn't mention it specifically, but some of those matching ratios, other states are like 80-20, and we have so much federal land in Nevada that it does bump them up to 95-5. And when I thought about that, and I said also, sometimes you're competing for federal highways funds through central federal lands and or the recreational trails program. So there's other sources, but he was covering the ones that we have a normal pipeline flow through. And the one-way valve from federal highways to FTA and not coming back was one of the things I fought for many years. And at this point, I said, call your congressman. Laws can change, really. They really can. So thank you.
Perfect. See anybody else? Ms. Maloney?
Sort of a technical question, and maybe, Chris, you can get back to me. It can be offline. I know I've heard in the past, including comments from Mr. French, regarding our use of asphalt. And I know when I was up at the lake, there were some discussions about the use of transportation dollars for recreational trails and vice versa. And I'm curious just what the general standard is now, or if there's any requirements for Carson City when we do our non-motorized trails. Are they required to be paved surfaces, or do we have the option of doing like a compacted DG? It'd be good just to know that, and if nothing else, in response to some of those public comments that we've heard, that we're considering putting down more asphalt, or if we're required to do so as part of these grants.
I don't know the answer off the top of my head, so I will have to get back to you. I'll look into it. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. Any comments from across the way? He's like, no, I'm silent if I can be, right? Okay. All right, then we're going to move on to agenda item 6A, which is our transportation manager's report. It's like I can make a quick switch.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I had my notes over here, otherwise I would have
Nope.
done it down
No
there.
problem.
Wanted to give a couple of updates real quick. First, on the US 50 corridor study we've been working on. I'm extremely excited to report, thanks to Kelly's hard work, we've received over 940 individual surveys
Wow.
on that
That's
corridor.
got to be a record.
I don't know that CAMPO has ever received that many comments. I feel like I want to compete with a little NDOT on their Southern Sierra. I'm curious how many they got, but we're up to 942, Kevin. No. No, it's great news, and it means
Wonderful.
we're getting a lot of good input, and people are really interested in this corridor. So, we have our work cut out for us, and working with our consultant parametrics, I think we'll be able to come up with some good options. So,
Wonderful.
super excited on that. We're also currently working on updates to our regional transportation plan. Kelly this week kicked off an amendment we're working on to incorporate some other planning documents. As you know, we've completed the Carson Area's Transportation System Management Plan. We want to get that incorporated into the RTP and other documents that have been updated over the course of the last couple of years. Want to get that incorporated in there. So working on that, more to come to this board on that for sure. Plugging away in our local road safety plan. In fact, we'll probably have an update on that project next month at the CAMPO board in February, along with some safety information. I want to coordinate with NDOT and talk about safety targets and the local road safety plan. And could be February, could be March, but I'm going to pencil it in for February. We've kicked off the process for updating our Unified Planning Work Program. Again, this board will see more information on that, but that's our annual 2-year document that talks about our annual work program. So that's getting underway as well. With that, I don't have any more questions on the Transportation Manager's report.
Very good. Okay, how about any other comments or reports? Anyone? Anybody have anything to share? We're good. Last chance. How about online, just in case any of you had something to share? John or Wes? They're not unmuting. I can still see red, so we're going to go with they don't have a comment. Okay, then we're going to move to final public comment. Is there anyone that wants to bring final comment to CAMPO? Yikes. Take off.
That wind is really howling.
Yeah, it is.
Wow, it
It's
made
like
it very hard to hear you all, and I was getting spooked out a little bit.
we're spooked
So-
with you.
Thank you very much, Chair and Board. Tonight has been very helpful to me as far as my understanding, and thank you for your comments as far as the trails, and that clarification will be very good to hear. I'm sorry, I'm not supposed to direct that way, but thank you for the board. Also, I was hoping to get a little bit of an update about my Carson City wandering skipper butterfly, and it hasn't come, and I'm worried. I'm worried that we're proportionately crowding them out. We found one excuse after another to push it on to, we've got areas for them to be, and those areas are quickly diminishing. And any area you find one of those habitats, specifically for the butterfly, should be prized, should be considered valuable. And we have a responsibility, as it is on the endangered species list, to pay attention. We also have responsibility for those that are close to becoming. We have a jay in the area that I can't think of the specific name, but he is near to the endangered list. And we have the monkey flower, which has residents all over the areas, but limited now more and more, and we need to pay attention to those. I also would like to ask if there's been consideration to the design that had been brought up some time ago for the new bus stops. It was going to be somewhere point in the conversation way back was that there was going to be a reconsideration of the design for safety purposes and for sheltering purposes. They're not, in my my opinion, very comfortable for safety, and I don't feel they're very sheltering. And they make observations and watch for a bus coming very difficult, and observation into those areas very difficult. So I wish that that would be brought up, and I appreciate everybody. Thank you very much. And I think we're on my deal. There's one more thing, and I really was trying to get my head around it. The funding services that were suggested might include some of the areas on our streets that have street areas that aren't good with the ramps, or is that in proportion or in direct area of a bus stop or required? When you mentioned that those could be part of that funding that was going for the shelters and such. Is it a possibility in the future? I hope it is. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Do I have any other public comment on CAMPO or RTC? Okay, Dee Dee?
My name's Dee Dee Formaster. I'm with Rural Center for Independent Living. You spell my last name Foremaster. And I'm here for two reasons. Number one is the bus stops. We would really, really like a bus stop out near where our office is, which is near ice storage, along with Advocates to End Domestic Violence and the Dream Center, and several churches are also out there now. It would be wonderful to have a bus stop near there because there are several community organizations that are out in that area that desperately need a bus stop. And seeing as we have talked about this, I again cannot reiterate enough that it's a good, I'd say, half a mile, if not a mile, from the bus stop that is on the other side of Food Mart. And they have to walk all the way up Highway 50 with their walkers and canes and wheelchairs to be able to access those services. So again, I would really like desperately to see a bus stop in that area. And my other complaint is about the rude, disrespectful, and condescending jerk that, yes, is doing the sidewalk repair, which has not been done for the last 5 weeks. I asked him when he was digging it up to please put proper signage in. He said, "Who the hell are you?" And I explained to him what my name was. I gave him my card. I told him that I am the ADA specialist for the area, and that if he was going to dig up the sidewalk, could he please put signage in on that end and this end so that people would know that he was digging up the sidewalk. He was very rude and disrespectful. And then he said, "Nobody uses this damn sidewalk anyway, so what's the difference?" And I said, "Excuse me, this is in front of the new low-income housing complex that is being built. And I don't care if no one uses this sidewalk, but I have had a complaint about this sidewalk, and there is no signage."
Thank you. Your time is up, and I have some staff that's out in the audience that could get with you to hopefully resolve that issue.
That would
I'm
be great.
smiling at all of
Thank
them
you.
on the back, on the back line to get with you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Mhm. Okay, do I have any other? Nope, not seeing any. Then we will adjourn as Campo and just take five minutes and we'll reconvene as RTC. Thank you so much. Regional Transportation Commission to order. May I have a roll call, please? Here.
Vice Chair Shudi,
Here.
Commissioner Novak,
Here?
Commissioner Dotson,
Here.
Commissioner Maloney. Here. A quorum's present.
Thank you so much. We're now on to opening public comment. Do I have any? Come on up, Denny. Like, whoo, short and sweet. It
I
sounds
will
like
try to make it.
the roof's gonna blow off.
Okay, Denny French, Carson City, thank you, Chair. The route considerations are one of the main reasons I'm here tonight. And I'm not sure that I'm on the same track, but the Highway 50, and I just want to compliment, my last trip on the bus was just recently, and the driver, excellent as far as skills, and polite and courteous, and even remembered my stop, and I hadn't ridden for some time. So I really appreciate them all, and I'd like to appreciate the fact that the bus was in good order, and the consideration I had about the seatbelt situation didn't happen again. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Do you have anyone else with public comment? Okay, we're gonna then move on to approval of our minutes of December 13th. Does anyone have any corrections? I'll accept a motion for approval, please.
I move to approve the minutes as presented.
I will second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Let the record reflect it was unanimous. Okay, we're on agenda item 5A. If anyone's following along, discussion and possible action regarding the nominations and election of a chairperson and a vice chair for calendar year 2024. Sure seems like the year went by fast, doesn't it? Do we have any discussion on this item? Otherwise, it's us. Do you want to make a motion, Lisa? It's us.
I move to approve Lori Bagwell to be, I don't have it right in front of me.
Appoint. as
I'm sorry,
chairperson.
Dedoy. Let me try this again.
Yep, here you go.
In my pile. I move to appoint Lori Bagwell as chairperson for a one-year term expiring December 31st, 2024.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Is no further discussion. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Let the record reflect that was unanimous. So I'll go on to the next one. We need a vice chair. In case I don't come, you want to keep doing it? She'll keep doing it. It's kind of, we do this at the board all the time too, don't we, Lisa? You want to keep working? Keep working. Okay, so do I have a motion or anybody for the vice chair? Greg, you want to make a motion?
Sure. I move to appoint Lisa Shudi as vice chairperson for a one-year term expiring December 31st, 2024.
I'll second that. Such an honor. So all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Let the record reflect that was unanimous. We're now on to agenda 5B as in boy. This is discussion and possible action regarding proposed revisions to the Jump Around Carson Fixed Route Rider policies and procedures and the Jack Assist American with Disabilities Act complementary policies and procedures. Dan, You're going to take us through it, right?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, everyone. This evening, I would like to cover some of the snow rerouting policies that we have come up with, and also some of the, I'd like to go over briefly with some of the Jack Fixed Route and Jack Assist updates that we made for 2024. We are going to, sorry. There we are. And it's time appropriate since we have such inclement weather, but
Yeah, if you add wind to this comment, you might
right.
win.
On the agenda I'll be discussing bus routes that could potentially be affected by heavy snow conditions, point out alternative stops or routes if impacted by heavy snow, Jack Fixed Route and Assist policy revisions that we made. And at the end, I'll take any questions or comments. Jump around Carson Transit Services faces challenges during the winter seasons due to snowy roadway conditions. Jack Fixed Route and Jack Assist will maintain a level of service commitment to our community while maintaining safety for Jack drivers and passengers during inclement weather conditions. If you take a look here, there are three main areas that are of concern to our drivers when snow conditions are very heavy during the year. The one here, Route 1, Carson Tahoe Center, Cancer Center, parking lot. There is a bus stop located within the Cancer Center near the hospital. The parking lot apparently isn't always cleared out of deep snow. And under those conditions, the roadway to the Cancer Center is a steep hill that has to be traversed by a bus. And there has been times in the past where a bus was not able to safely make the route up the hill to the Cancer Center. So in this type of situation, if we had to declare an alternate stop, we have proposed that Medical Parkway, there is a bus stop located in front of the Cancer Center before you go into the parking lot. We'll use that as a alternative stop. And I also want to note that these conditions are under heavy snow conditions where a vehicle would have a hard time, a bus, even with chains, to be able to access a bus stop.
Does the hospital, I know in the regular parking lot provides a little, kind of like a golf cart. It's not technically the correct word that I'm
Right.
using, but they have a little transportation that they even help and go out from the other parking lots and bring people to the door. Are they able to help? Have we made the hospital aware of this issue? I guess that's more what I'm interested in saying.
I could reach out to them. I do realize that they do have a lot of equipment and personnel to help people get around. Whether or not they involve the Cancer Center directly, I don't know, but I could find out for
But
you.
if in our policy, just as a thought, looking at this, if there was just a notification process, if we're not going to be able to deliver to the
Correct.
bus stop, maybe we just ask them who should we notify that we're not
Okay.
bringing your, right, they might be able to meet them at the other bus
Okay.
stop. That's my
good.
whole emphasis, is that we just add a little bit extra that says, hey, we can't make it to the bus stop. The weather is
Right.
not going to
Right.
allow us to do it. Okay,
And
thank you.
I just wanted to make a note that we make every attempt to not
do
shut
it.
down any bus stops if we can. But that is a good idea. Thank you. On the second area, we have Route 2A, Western Nevada College, the main entrance into the college. There is a hill that goes up to the college to the roundabout. Apparently, that hill sometimes does not get plowed beyond the fire station, and that is a concern for our bus drivers to be able to go up the hill or down. and also make the roundabout. The roundabout at the very top can be a little tricky, even in dry conditions, but under snow conditions, it can be a little treacherous. So the alternate stops that we would utilize in this situation would be at the bottom of the hill before you drive up to the university, and it's before the fire station. And in order to use this stop, these two stops, the bus will have to make a U-turn at the bottom of the hill to provide a service. And that's, again, only if the snow conditions are so heavy, a bus will be in jeopardy of going up or down the hill. And
Dan, could I ask you a question?
Sure.
I was just wondering about the notification process. Is there any plan to, I know there's the app that you can put some alerts out. Is there
Right.
a plan in place to do that?
So we're going to try and utilize the app system to notify customers of closure, but we're also going to be posting signage along bus stops, whether it be the alternate bus stop or at the actual official bus stop that is closed, and here's your alternative stop that you could utilize. And probably the best way to find out up-to-date information is on the TransLoc app. And we're working to try and get notifications in there as soon as possible in these situations where bus stops do have to get closed. And I would like to emphasize that our number one priority is safety for the bus drivers and the passengers within buses. Otherwise, we would service every single stop if we could.
Dan, if I may.
Sure.
I want to note that one of the reasons we're bringing this policy and identifying these stops is to help notify the public. These are stops where if we get a significant snowfall overnight and the plowing hasn't occurred at the Cancer Center, the plowing hasn't occurred at WNC, or they're closed for their winter session, we're not serving these stops even today without a notification. So one of the efforts we're going through and one of the reasons we're discussing this is to sort of identify in our policies that there are instances where we may not be able to serve because of snow conditions, because in reality, we're probably not serving these now and there's no notification. There's not a document that even says if it snows, we're not serving that. So I hear the commission's concern about notifications. I think we share the concern about notifications. This is sort of the next step in maturing our program to say, you know, if there's snow, these stops may not be served. Ideally, yeah, real-time information, we'd like to get there, but this is some of that step along the way, just as context.
So the third stop that is a concern is located in between the Fandango Casino and the cinema. There are two stops, again, on a hill, on top of the hill. Buses have a hard time going up the hills on Kuntz and Clearview Avenue under severe snow conditions. And so the two stops that are in between the casino and the cinema, if they are closed, we are trying to get a temporary stop put in on the exit into the Fandango Casino. Now, we do have portable bus stops, I guess you could say signage that we could place in that particular area in case the two stops on the very top of the hill do get stopped. And that is what, and part of the reason we have that in that location is because of the size of the exit. It is a cutout from the main roadway of Carson Street. And we want to try and cut down on pedestrians having to walk from the upper location and have to cross Carson Street in order to get to alternate bus stops, which are down the road. So we at least have a temporary location located in that exit, so they don't, customers don't have to walk as far. Any questions on that? Okay. In summary, Jack service will still operate when it is snowing. Bus stop closures will be assessed on a day-to-day basis by Jack leadership during snow events. Alternate routes can be utilized without impacting customer ridership. Changes to normal routing will be made by Jack team on daily basis according to road conditions and weather conditions. We currently have myself and a few other leadership employees that will go out if we know that there is heavy snow on the ground before the buses go out en route, and we'll survey these 3 main areas along with other bus stops throughout the day. I would like to move on to some of the points as far as the updates to fixed route policy, incorporation of the snow schedule and route adjustments that we just discussed is one of the major ones. Changes to general rules and carry-on items that we've made include passenger hygiene and the use of bicycles and personal belongings brought on to the bus. And there's other updates within the fixed route policies. With Jack Assist or ADA paratransit, we added a section on mobility devices and other personal belongings being brought onto buses. We added a no pay section that covers some customers that have ridden the bus and may have not been able to pay a portion of the fare. There is a system in place in which we're going to take in case we have repeat, I don't want to say offenders, but personnel that have repeat actions in that area. So,
Can I talk about this a little bit so I
Yes, ma'am.
just have more of an understanding? How are you even getting on the bus without a pay? I don't understand the no pay component at all, so
It's
Well-
good-
how are
great-
you getting there?
Great question. So there are instances where, as an example, where we'll take somebody to a medical appointment, they pay their fare, they don't have fare to get back. So we're taking them back to where they came from. That happens occasionally.
Because they're just
Jack- this is
doing
Jack
one
Assist.
way.
You pay at the time you ride.
Right.
So if they pay $3 for their one-way trip, they don't have $3 to come back, we're not going to leave them at those locations. So we're picking them up and bringing them back to the location. So that's an example of when a no pay may occur.
Okay.
So we were getting some pushback on, well, it doesn't say I don't have to pay, or it doesn't say I have to pay. And so this clarifies the policy that you're expected to pay, and if you don't, here's what's going to happen.
Yeah, and you really don't want to say they have to buy the round trip to begin with because somebody else actually may be picking them up. They may have alternate
Correct.
transportation for the other half of the trip and don't want them to
Correct.
charge them for a round trip.
This is very rare. It's
Okay.
generally very rare.
Yes.
This happens.
Just helps clarify how we get in the position we're in. Thank you.
correct. And we do have a slight expansion of the Jack Assist extended service area. It's outlined on the map. And we've made other updates, slight updates to our program. Any questions or comments?
I do, or for me, does anyone else? I'd like to look at, page 45 of the packet or page 5 of the paratransit revised policies, and if you can help me understand the Jack Assist policy, it says here, is to also provide trips beginning and ending beyond the 3/4 of a mile from any Jack fixed route. I'm trying to understand that. It's mandatory if you're within 3/4 of a mile, is that correct? That we have to provide the paratransit
It is mandatory.
services, but why is this tells me I can do it anywhere in the city unless I just can't read? Because this says it's everything beginning and ending beyond 3/4 of a mile, which means everywhere.
So we're mandated, as you mentioned, Madam Chair, to provide paratransit service within 3/4 of a mile of a fixed route. That's mandated by 49 CFR
Right.
37, I think it is. But we are allowed to extend that service should we choose to. So Jack has been operating Jack Assist in a 1 mile radius around fixed route. That's the extended service area, the 1 mile radius. So that extra 1/4 mile has been our extended area. Recently, the last several years, we've gotten a number of comments saying, I live across the street from the service area, why can't I have Jack Assist? My doctor opened up outside the extended service area, why can't I have Jack Assist? And we decided to expand the 1 mile service area in select areas of Carson City to include those. So the map included the appendix is our service area. In some cases, it's still 1 mile, it's Appendix C, and in some cases, it extends slightly beyond a 1 mile radius. We will provide service in that extended area as shown on the map, but not beyond that. So for instance, we're
I'm
not
not
going.
reading it saying that, but okay.
Okay,
I
We can
think
work
a
on
little
some
more
language, but that's the
clarification.
intent.
I'm reading this, I don't see anything that says pursuant to Appendix C.
that's an easy add.
Right,
If
on
that
the
helps
add.
clarify, then we can certainly do that.
Because the way I read this is you just opened up the entire city. And then I have another general question on that. Is it also only based on your ability to make that extra trip? So let's say I have 14 people signed up for Jack Assist right now, and I only have so many bus drivers and buses. Is there a priority that happens that I provide the Jack Assist to everyone that's in the required zones before I would say, yeah, I'll go ahead and pick up Johnny that's in this extended orange area or whatever?
I'm not sure we prioritize like that. I think it's a first come, first serve. I believe, our contracted operator, Mike Peoples, is here with First Transit. I believe it's first come, first serve, and that we don't prioritize based on location, but I could be mistaken.
Sorry, you have to come and put it on the record.
Come on, Mike.
We can hear you, but Tamar might not be able to when she's transcribing minutes. So if you'd put your name on and give me some, I really want to understand how Jack Assist works. Thank you.
So Michael Peoples, General Manager for Jump Around Carson. So our only real prioritization would be for medical patients, i.e. dialysis patients. Someone in true need of transportation immediately would be the only prioritization. Other than that would be first come, first serve.
So my question, again, if we want to add here pursuant to Exhibit C, I think that's imperative that if we're clarifying, let's go ahead and do it and clarify it. But you don't think there's anything that's necessary to indicate that just because you have a trip that is scheduled by somebody, if somebody's sick, you guys always cover the paratransit? We don't need you might get canceled?
I think.
There you go, just leave it on
Hi,
green.
I think for the most part, we can cover just about everything. It's pretty rare that we say we don't have room for someone.
That's
well-
not what we heard, and I just bring it up because we had testimony from Mr. Voigt and stuff that there was concern or whatever, and I just want to make sure that everyone in the community is understanding what Jack Assist is. So if you're outside of the 3/4 mile, but in the extended service area as Exhibit C shows, so those areas, if you're in that extended area, the other difference is you're gonna pay what versus what? So is
Double,
it,
you'll pay double.
you'll pay double for the ride. So then my question becomes, does that actually cover the cost of the ride if they're paying double? Or is it still being subsidized?
Well, I think transit in general is subsidized, so
No matter
none
what?
of it pays for the cost of itself.
No matter what. Okay.
Right.
but it's a service that some of our individuals in our community really need
Yeah,
to get to the doctor.
there's been a lot of, I'm close, but I don't live in it. Can you please serve me? I live in Carson City. Why can't I be served by Jack Assist? So I made the decision to extend the area because I think that provides the service to the most number of people, because we were getting concerns and we were getting input from people wanting to ride, wanting to visit their medical, and the area was expanding because of new doctor and medical appointments in the area.
But, and then whether we like it or not, because we're talking about it and we're certainly going to do it in our retreat, is every decision has a cost center to it, which is why I ask, how much is it then offset versus I'm not going to have to put more general fund dollars in? And then where are we specifically expanding? Did we tell us where
The
on the
expand-
map?
the
Where are we
areas we've-
doing this expanded
The
area?
areas we've specifically expanded are the northern portion of Carson City up on Gonai. We've expanded a little bit to the Longview area off of King Street, and we expanded out on US 50 to Deer Run Road. Those are the three areas.
But nothing up in the Timberline area?
No, we did not
'Cause we
expand in that
got a lot
area,
of calls for that area too. Okay,
or Lakeview.
right.
And we're not extending a course into Douglas County as discussed previously.
Mhm. Okay, Ms. Maloney?
I actually didn't catch this specific clause, so kudos, Mayor, for catching it like you always do with your eagle eye. I don't know that I'm comfortable with this specific change. My experience with Jack Assist, granted it was several years ago, was that we were always overbooked and we couldn't accommodate everyone that needed it. Personally, I would love to see some more information about ridership, about how often we are getting in these complaints. I think we all want to serve everyone as best as we can, and I would just like to see a little more information, maybe a map that shows the differences in the 3/4 and now, and specifically how those decisions were made. I trust you entirely, Chris, and staff, and that's not my concern, but I think this service adjustment is a pretty substantial one for Carson, and I would love to give it the credit that's due and really understand the magnitude of the change and why we're looking to change it. So that's sort of where I am on this specific issue.
Yeah, I just have to say, I was surprised to see it without data supporting the requested change. Maybe that's a better way just to say this, so I don't doubt staff whatsoever. But I don't have any data points or any information to be making a decision. And what bothers me, if I make this decision here, we heard public comment earlier about really wanting another bus stop out in a certain area. And so I look to, and that's what I meant about resources and the ability to deliver the service, and where should we be putting our dollars, and where is the best avenue to do that. And we're going to be talking about that anyway in February, is, what do we really want to be recommending for Jack and Jack Assist? Because you've already indicated we have some other federal dollars that we don't even have the match to be able to utilize all the dollars that we have. And so where is the greatest need for that? So I'm trying to think, that's kind of, of a way to not really hold this up. But I also do not just want to unilaterally extend this service area. So I'm, without more details. Yes, I just need data. I'm not suggesting it's no, but it would be interesting to say, well, it's 6 people. Extending this data service area will relate to 6 people that have been asking for service over the last year. That's what I'm interested in finding out, right? Or no, we could be opening ourselves up to 30 people. I want the statistic to know what we're addressing. Because
Okay,
is that
fine.
even the right area? Like I said, I'm honest with you. I've gotten calls from Timberline and some of the other areas. One, because we don't even have good taxi service that helps with people that are truly invalid and need help,
Homebound.
right? And so I want to make sure if I'm doing an expansion, why did we pick this area and not what I said? Why aren't we going everywhere? Because I think people in the entire community may need help. And I would love to understand how our taxis work, because I'm understanding they don't have a really good service for that. So I think I just need a little more information.
Okay.
Sorry. Because I know you guys work hard, so please don't misunderstand that we don't believe in what you're doing or trying to accomplish.
We could take the approach of approving everything except for the Appendix C and the associated language.
And I don't have any problem with anything else that was in here. And then later you can bring us a presentation and stuff on this. And maybe it is good to actually bring that item and that piece to the retreat so that it is a broader community discussion.
Great idea.
Right? It's, I think you said something earlier that really strikes home to me. And it's difficult when I'm sitting on my other role as the Board of Supervisors and trying desperately to say, I only have this much general fund, right? And so why would I give another 100,000 or whatever to the Jack bus system? Well, here's the plethora of data that supports even a request for more general fund versus this over here that also wants that same 100,000. Matter of fact, I probably have 5 different departments or groups in the city that would like that $100,000, right? And so I think this is a great community discussion because I think there are elderly, or not even elderly, but it's even more difficult when the household is 2 people that are 80 years old, desperately trying to care for their loved one and get them to medical appointments. It's tough. And so I think that's a great suggestion that we consider pulling the Jack Assist portion out to the retreat discussion, if that kind of works for everybody. Lucia?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just had one more comment, or maybe it's a suggestion related to the first portion of the presentation and the alternate bus stops. Since you're saying these are safety situations that are peculiar or different, I would just suggest that maybe you guys consider tracking those as part of your safety incidents. Just in the future, if we get asked, or if anyone asks, that we would have an understanding of if this worked, or if we ended up doing it. I think that might be nice to track it, and you may have already planned on doing that.
Okay, we can do that.
So before we take any motions, of course, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Paige? Yeah.
I appreciate this, and thank you so much for the conversations.
Sure,
And,
thank you.
I appreciate your time. And we spoke to this, but I just want to mention it again because I would love to see it be able to be added back when there's a contact person, but the Western Nevada College to be able to sell tickets there. For Jack or for public transportation, if we're wanting it to grow and we want it to be more sustainable and bring in more revenue, and we want to reduce vehicles on the road and we want people to use it, we're still in those baby steps of getting folks to use it. And so I think more opportunities to easily purchase tickets will be helpful. And so that's number one. In terms of the data, and I think this is really important, and it also speaks to a little bit of like Dee Dee's request and what Chair Bagwell was just speaking to in terms of being able to, wanting to meet the needs, because I also understand that when it is more convenient, more people will use it. It's easier than to jump on the bus if it's an easy jump, if you will. what is the data behind each additional stop? Because I know that sometimes it seems that it's really easy to add a stop. One more stop, it's just one more, and it's just on the way, and you pass it anyway. But really, what is the impact to that? The impact to schedule or the impact to cost? And so I think it would be helpful in this conversation because the request is a good one, and I can see the need. If it can't be met easily, or if something needs to change, I think that should be discussed. So those are my comments.
I'm going to take some public comment, if we have any, on item 5B on the policies, before we can take any action. 5B, item 5B. is what we're on.
5B, one thing that I picked up on was great discussion. I appreciate everybody's input. Mine is that when I was at WNC, I was very fortunate to have my schedule at times in the line with some of the employees there and some of the students as far as scheduling. And their classes, in some cases for the students, ran over the scheduled bus times. And so there is some consideration for time changes or extension. And I know money is a problem and that fare and ridership might be lower in the evenings and such. So all those things have to be considered, and they have to find alternate ways to get back from their classes while they may have taken the bus to them. And their employees had a certain amount of time, but also the placement of the stop. It is a treacherous place, even the best of days. That roundabout is just not built for buses or for most vehicles. But there are several other routes that I might suggest if I had the map in front of me. But the main thing is that I appreciate that. I also would like to say on the fact that hygiene came up in this little bit that we had as far as the way to relate to it and for the staff. I know that was a consideration for me the last time I spoke, or part of what I spoke one of the times just recently. And for your staff to be safe, to have the customers be your clients or your ridership be comfortable, those things, and having your driver know there is a specific way to relate to a situation is very helpful. I didn't get to read that. I didn't get into that part of the package. I'm sorry. But again, I think WNC, the changes because of the weather might be detrimental to some of the students getting to the stop that's lower down, because it is a little bit tough to do that walk past the fire station towards down the hill. That's hard on walking. I had to get a different wheelchair because I couldn't get up the drive because the wheels would slide on the asphalt. So if you can imagine, my wheels on a wheelchair won't do. You trying to walk down an icy hill to get to a bus stop is to be considered. So whenever they do a route to change for the weather, please consider the fact that we have to get to that stop and from those higher locations getting down to stuff, and then an alternate getting up. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do I have any other public comment on this item? Take action. Okay, I'm going to bring it back to the commission. So are we comfortable with approving the remainder of the policy with the exception of the paratransit expansion? I guess that's really the issue, right? The paratransit expansion. So
Yeah, oh, I'm comfortable with all the changes, and it looked to me like you got enough feedback from staff and the operator that they all seem to make sense. And I know you guys have done a good job, and I'm assuming you'll have a lot of data on actual usage and stops and everything else that you've addressed in the policy during the retreat.
that's my hope. Right.
We'd like better data to make better decisions, so I think you guys will be having it.
Mm-hmm. So does that mean you want to make the motion?
Oh, yes.
Sounds
I'll
right
make,
to me.
I will make a motion
Well, thank you, Greg.
to adopt our revised policies with the exception of the Jack Assist extended service area.
Is that sufficient understanding in the motion for you to know what you're amending?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much. Just wanted to clarify.
I will second the motion.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say no. Thank you so very much for your guys' work.
Thank you.
Great job. I know staff works extremely hard, so I just, again, thank you. It's important, and you did a great job. Okay, we're now going to go to agenda item 5C. We're on Charlie. Discussion and possible action regarding approval of an interlocal contract between the state of Nevada acting by and through its Department of Health Care, Financing and Policy and the Carson City Regional Transportation Commission for reimbursements from Medicaid eligible paratransit services not to exceed $51,721.50, and to allow the transportation manager to sign the contract and future extensions of time or changes in funding if it doesn't exceed 10%. Ms. Schutte, do I have your disclosure, please?
Thank you. NRS 281A 420 requires me to disclose conflicts of interest and abstain from voting when I have a disqualifying conflict. My nephew is Chris Martinovich, who is employed by Carson City and will be presenting this item. Chris and I are not receiving compensation of any kind directly related to this item. It will not foreseeably impair or enhance the terms of his service with the city, and we are not affected by the outcome of this item to a greater degree than any other resident of Carson City. NRS 281A.420 only requires abstention in clear cases, and the independent judgment of a reasonable person in my position would not be impacted by my familial relationship. Therefore, I do not have a disqualifying conflict, and I will be voting on this matter.
Thank you so much. Mr. Martinovich, anything special or different or?
Thank you, Madam Chair.
unique
Yeah,
on this contract?
not really unique or special. The contract terms are nearly identical to the contract terms that we've been operating under since 2013. So that this is just a continuation of our reimbursement program for riders who are receiving Medicaid. They schedule a ride, we log their ride, we bill the state, the Medicaid, we pay them, they reimburse us. It's kind of
Kind of
complicated, but that's the way it works, and we get reimbursed for those Medicaid rides. You know, should we start to see increased ridership in terms of Medicaid, I've discussed with the state that there's possibility to, increase the cost for those. We want to reimburse the ridership based on that use and associated costs associated with operating. So that's how that number was developed, previous rides, and will be, as rides increase, we can increase the contract in the future.
Well, and certainly our last item of discussion, this would be the perfect thing that could, if you expand the service area, there could be more Medicaid eligible
Correct.
individuals on paratransit. So I think, again, getting some good data might help us really look at the map. So does anybody else have any questions on this? You're here, Miss Smalley. Were you here on this item? Or you're just watching us? Any public comment? I thought, just in case. I thought she's waited the whole time. Oh,
But no, I'll go ahead and speak. Molly Waltz, CEO of Nevada Rural County's RSVP program. No, I'm interested because we are transporting seniors, adults with disabilities at a rate that we are having a really, really hard time keeping up with. Paratransit is our largest obstacle right now, and we seem to be getting a lot of referrals from Jack Assist. We have clients calling saying, I've called to schedule with Jack Assist. They can't accommodate. You have to be certified, to do paratransit. So there was one trainer in the state of Nevada, and he's left, from NDOT, and the person was located in Elko. So we would get her to come, we would pay for her travel, her accommodations, and she would come twice a year to train our drivers to accommodate paratransit wheelchairs. So I contacted her about 9 months ago, and I asked her if she could come and do a training. She said, no, I'm sorry, I don't do that anymore. So I contacted NDOT, and I said, what do we do? And he says, you become a trainer. So I did. So now myself and another staff members are trainers, and we're being called from Las Vegas to come. We will, pay for your accommodations to train in paratransit because there just really isn't that here. I don't have the time, but I do now have that control to where, I can train. I can have a volunteer show up on Tuesday and I can train them on Wednesday to do paratransit. When you asked for data, I just went back for the last 2 weeks. We have transported 9 wheelchair clients in the last 2 weeks. Transporting a wheelchair client is not an easy task. It is a very timely task to do. We have we have several actually that are on dialysis. Our guidelines is 1 ride per week, but we have several clients that are on dialysis. So we at least try to accommodate 2 times a week if we can. But I mean, you know, the amount of transportation that we are doing in Carson City is, I can't explain it. I honestly cannot explain the amount of transportation that we are doing. And I believe every one of our clients would fall in Jack Assist due to the fact that they need that door to door. They need us to go to the door and help them through that threshold to get them into our vehicle, whether it be a wheelchair or walker, whatever. So no, I was just, I do believe that RSVP has a seat at this table. I looked at your agenda and I thought, you know, I should have been here 3 years ago when I first started as CEO of RSVP because of the amount of transportation we provide to seniors. And it's not in CAMPO as well because we provide transportation to Lyon County and Douglas as well. I mean, we provide transportation in all 15 rural counties. Carson City, though, is our largest clientele. And so that's all. I mean, I'm here to learn, listen, and, you know, be a partner. I don't know that Jack has ever looked at us as being a partner, you know, with the transportation that we do provide, because I sat here and I listened and, you know, I never heard Nevada Rural County's RSVP come up at all, but yet we are a partner. We do fulfill a lot of those gaps, and because we do the door-to-door. So that's why I was here.
And Molly, do you get a
Sorry.
Medicaid reimbursement? Or
We
You
don't.
do not?
No,
So
we do
you're
not.
not a Medicaid partner? Okay.
No, we have asked, we have been asked by MTM to be a partner because they cannot fulfill their transportation requests. So we've been asked, but we do not bill Medicare, no, or Medicaid, so no, we do not. And we are, you know, we continue to be free. We have surveyed our clients to say if we were to charge a fare, what would that do to you? And the feedback was astonishingly, don't do it. We have, we do ask for donations, and, you know, our clients try the best to do, you know, to give us those donations. However, with inflation, our donations have decreased by 73%. Yeah, so take that. I mean, 73%. And the need, because Social Security did not increase at the rate of inflation. So, you know, it is. Our seniors are struggling. And so we are doing our best at continuing to find foundation and partners on that as well. So we will continue to do what we do. I am astonished that our team can do what we do. But it, you know, I look at, you know, next week at all of the pending rides and I just get anxiety. But I myself will be driving next week, wheelchair clients.
Yeah, you have a really
So-
good team that cares a lot about the
Yeah,
community members. so
But the
thank you.
need is there, and when you say you have obstacles, I'm sure trying to find drivers that want to even transport wheelchair is an obstacle. But that's all I was here. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you. Again, more information and data that helps us understand more of the paratransit world. Yes. Yeah, what is it really like? So, see anyone else? Okay. Someone like to make the motion? Ms. Shooty.
I move to approve the contract as presented and to authorize the transportation manager to sign the contract and future amendments regarding extensions of time and changes in funding not exceeding 10% of the present amount.
Who's going to give?
Second.
Second. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say no. Let the record reflect it was unanimous. Thank you. We're now on to item 6A, the Transportation Manager's Report. Mr. Martinovich.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Chris Martinovich. I first wanted to acknowledge Molly for coming and providing your comments. I will be reaching out. Okay, thank you. It's not an area I am familiar with, your services, and I'll be honest that I have not followed up or have not had any conversations with you specifically. I do think paratransit is important, and I think probably the difference between us charging a fare and you not charging a fare may be part of the reason, so we should definitely discuss. I do want to note, related to this, 2 items on transit related. Next month, I had planned to bring the JAC monitoring report. We haven't had a JAC monitoring report for a couple of years, and so we're working on that. Dan and our team have started updating that plan, so February, plan to see the JAC monitoring report. We'll work in some of this detail if we can get it pulled together in the next couple of weeks, but we can work in some of this additional information that we've discussed here tonight. Also, I want to note on JAC related to a CAMPO item related to FTA dollars. So I added some statistics here. I'll read them off. I mentioned that our funding for JAC comes through those Section 5310, 5339, 5307 funds, but different matching requirements. So JAC as a whole, the whole operation of JAC generally is running at about 60% federal share, 35%, 36% non-federal share, various not matching sources, and 4% fares. So 4% of our total revenue comes from fares. Everything else is from a federal or non-federal source. So I think that's a relevant statistic and number, and we can certainly include that in the JAC monitoring report next month. So just as a note on that.
Subsidized.
Correct.
That's the right answer. Heavily subsidized. Right. Okay. Thank you.
Other items on the Transportation Manager's Report. Next month, we will be bringing items related to some projects. So there's a couple of project decisions we need to get some clarification on. So look for those next month. We'll have our annual road mile certification for our paved and unpaved roads. And we will bring forward a couple of contract awards for Winnie Lane construction and 5th Street construction. So those are bids are opening or opened, and we'll be packaging those up for the February meeting. The last thing I want to mention, and I'm unfortunately I've mentioned this last several meetings, I'm going to do it again here. We're continuing to lose some staff. Dave Rosencutter, who was our chief civil design, has retired. He's 23 years with the city, so congratulations to Dave. I wanted to note that, but he has a lot of knowledge that has left the city, but congratulations to Dave. We've also lost 2 of our construction document controllers, so we currently are lacking our construction document controls at the city. So we're working to backfill that, and Darren's working with Randy and our construction team, Randy Rice, city engineer, and the construction team to fill those holes going forward. So that's what I have on that. So that's my transportation manager's report. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and 6B is our street operations report, and I think
6B,
everyone's using
late
the
material.
late material.
Yep, late material. Apologize for that error. Just duplicated the month there. Updates this month. A lot of concrete flat work occurred in November. The weather was still pretty good in November, so they got out there and did some of those areas. A lot of preparation for storm events noted there on the pipe cleaning and things like that. Ditch cleaning as well. And then curb paint, I guess I'll note that there was a significant month for curb paint, which is good, touching up red and green and yellow and all those areas across the city. So those are the ones I wanted to highlight. We'll probably see some snow removal starting in December and January, of course, over the next couple of months as it snows outside. I don't know what it's doing, but we shall see.
I just had a question. I know that I saw that you guys put something out where people could report if they needed a patch on their road. What was that? I know you had something specific for people to report that, not to phone someone or. It wasn't Carson Connect. You had somewhere for people to report if they wanted to let us know there was a major hole in the.
I don't know, I haven't heard a summary of how many people have taken us up on that. If I could follow up and get you that background.
That would be great, because I think the mayor gets them, and I forward them on to my friend across the way over there to put them on the list, but I would love to have the place just send them to do it themselves again, that we get that out there. If you notice something that you think is really dangerous on the road, or, it's such a big pothole in which the,
Carson Connect is one of those sources, but
Cars are
we'll
going
make
into
sure,
it.
we'll see how we're doing, yeah.
okay, just let me know, just
Okay.
so that we can all refer people to the best place you'd like it to go.
Okay.
That would be wonderful, other than me emailing Darren. Said, here's another one, put it on the list. Yeah. There's more. Does anyone have any questions on this? I really, really like this report. I think it is another one for the public to understand that these are things we have to do, right? It's not just about the road. We have to remove the tree that's damaging the road. We have to clean the pipe anyway. I just think these are activities that sometimes get just overlooked, or they say, or even, why are you spending money doing this? Why is this the priority? And someday we may really have a discussion on that too, right? Because I do get some public comments about, well, I just don't understand, put every dollar onto the road. I said, well, if I touch that road in a certain way, depending on what we do, I have to fix the sidewalk and the ADA ramp. It's
Well-
not, right? It's like, and if I'm there, why wouldn't I take care of that whole section of the road anyway?
And I think it also really helps support conversations about like debris cleaned in the street
Yes.
sweepers, and that then goes into the conversation about water quality and keeping debris out of our water system, and all of that is impactful financially. So I think it's a great report as well.
Agenda item 6C is our other comments and reports. Anything, Chris?
Yeah, I'm going to go back real quick to 6B and note that we are working on an item to include traffic signal maintenance as part of this. We just haven't been able to pull that data in a way that's
Easy to-
understandable for the public and the board to know what it all means. So we're working on
The
that.
green lights worked 99.99%.
If that's what, maybe we can do that, but yeah, working on that. Item 6C, the project status report. I'll quickly run through a few of these. So on Edmonds, our first project on packet page 122, construction has been completed. As I'm told, we're doing a final punch list walk next week, and they'll be working on those punch list items going forward into February. Group Street Rehabilitation Project, this is one I'd like to discuss more next month, so we'll tentatively on that one. Colorado CDBG pavement project is fully completed. The final invoice is being paid, I think, this next couple of weeks, so we're looking to get that one finally closed out, and whatever the final numbers are, we'll certainly report that and discuss that as part of this in 2 months. The next one, Fifth Street, I mentioned, is bid and will be awarded in February. Looking forward to seeing those numbers. William Street design continues to progress. I think we're reaching 100% design. They're working on the right-of-way and finalizing all the other documentations for the grant agreement with RAISE and the Federal Highway Administration. So that project continues to be on pace for, hopefully bidding later this year and design and information later to these boards, the Board of Supervisors, and others as well. The DMV multi-use path project, per public comment provided on this one earlier related to the butterfly, the wandering skipper, a biological survey was completed through the entire corridor, and there was no evidence and no suitable habitat found for the wandering skipper. That documentation has been submitted to NDOT and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and both have concurred with that finding. So there was no further issue on this particular project related to the wandering skipper in this area. So we're good to go. We're good to progress. The hang-up on this project is the easement and the agreement legal language associated with with the state lands and coming to terms with the city's needs and state lands needs and finalizing that agreement and getting that executed. Everything else is approved and good to go. Once we get that executed, we can bid this project and get it constructed. So that's what's left on that. The Appian Way traffic signal project, working with Housing and Urban Development on the environmental, so that is ongoing. Desatoya ADA improvement project is completed. All invoices have been paid. I summarized the funding there that's remaining. There's $27,800 that'll be returned to the RTC safety account. Any other unused CDBG funding will go back to CDBG. It's not our funding to use. Medical Parkway Preservation Project, the final invoice has been paid, but we're still awaiting release of retention, so I don't have final numbers on that, so we'll include that one more time.
Quick question. Sorry, you went real quick. I'm back on the Appian traffic signal. There's a sentence in there about no movement. Can you speak to that real quick, or did I miss it? What's the holdup on that one?
Yeah, there was an agreement that was worked on. We were approached by one of the business owners to construct a fourth leg. We were working back and forth with them, came to general agreement verbally. We had developed an agreement for them to review, and we haven't heard anything back on that. So that's where I mean there's no movement. Our District 5 Winnie Lane project, this is one that's been out to bid, so we're looking to award that in February. Some more information on that. West Carson Vulnerable User Pedestrian Safety Project. This project has reached 30% design. We're planning to submit to NDOT next week.
Chris, when it says additional funding, I'm
Oh,
assuming
Winnie
you're
Lane?
going to bring this
It'll-
one back on Winnie Lane, but
Yes.
additional funding meaning,
We'll need we anticipate that the engineer's estimate will be about $500,000 to $600,000 more than we have listed there. We have the additional funds from what we rolled off on Colorado Street, so it's just a matter of waiting. We have the money, it's just a matter of waiting to the final amount, so we move the right amount and not.
yeah, you
we-
just
we
gave us
have-
a
we
little
have the money.
relief. I'm like, hey,
Planning to do it, yeah.
okay. Perfect.
Just didn't want you all to see sticker shock when we award a contract for 1 point something and the budget's 900 something, so
At the same time. Okay. Phew. Yeah, that was a shoo.
The West Carson Vulnerable User Pedestrian Safety Improvement Project. This project, as I said, is 30% design. We were submitting plans to NDOT next week, doing some outreach to the property owners who would be affected by this. And again, this is one where we're seeing cost for concrete and ADA improvements escalating, so there's probably going to be some scope reduction from what we planned to do originally, unless we can find some additional funding. But more information on that as plans get developed. Our citywide district ARPA local roadway funding, our local roadway improvement project, we've got 50% design plans. They were received a couple of weeks ago, so we're reviewing those and get those back to the consultant here in a couple of weeks, mid-January probably, and continuing to design. Those will go to construction in early '25. We'll design this summer and go to construction in '25.
Well, can I ask a question on this one?
Mhm.
And maybe it's because it's actually split out different than I'm seeing, because it says the budget from the ARPA is 2.25.
Mhm.
It's not 2.5.
We already
Did you put
spent,
some somewhere else
yeah,
already?
we spent about 250,000 on the Medical Parkway project as part of that. We lumped that preservation ARPA into those other projects for efficiency purposes.
Okay, so ARPA's on a different project for the other.
Yep,
50. Good.
correct.
But my memory had, is this right? Okay, thanks. I think this is another project that is important because these, just for the public in case they're listening, these are the neighborhood roads or local roads. I think we haven't been stressing that enough, that we did allocate dollars when possible, right? And so all that work you did earlier tonight, telling us on funding sources that we really can't spend that money on the local roads, this was one that we could. And so I'm very interested in just keeping this project alive so people realize that it's not that we won't do a local road, we just need the appropriate funding source to be able to do it. So this one's really, I wish there was a lot more roads on this list, but we were able to do things in every district. I think that's
Correct.
important. So thank you.
Our next project is the Carmine Street Rehabilitation Project. This project we're going to discuss this in February. We've run into some storm drain challenges, and I want to discuss those with this board. So more on that in February. The next project is our North Lampa District Preservation Project. This one is for Lampa Lane, as shown on the map there. We're continuing with 90% design. This one's going to be combined with the District 1 ARPA projects. So for efficiency purposes, we're already doing Bunch and Dory and Snedden. So they're all preservation. We're going to include the Lampa Lane with the preservation of those streets to create one little bit larger project, get a little bit better bid prices, more cost efficiency as well. That's that project. And last couple projects, the District 1 College Parkway and Airport Road Preservation Project. This project has been struggling to get some survey over the winter. We do have the survey, but when we're plugging away, I have rescheduled the project and delayed it a year, primarily because we've lost our project manager, we've lost one of our designers, and so we're not able to kind of meet all these timelines as originally anticipated with those vacancies in our project management and design team. So we'll continue to work on this over the summer. If we can be more efficient, if we can find some streamline to speed it up, certainly will, but I think this is more of a realistic delivery schedule on this project. Looking at the last project is our FTA RAC downtown sidewalk projects. This one we awarded in December, and construction is anticipated to begin probably in the, I think, April timeframe. They're looking for a little bit better weather, so that's the latest info I have on that one. That's what I have. Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions, comments? Again, a very good report. I was at a past board meeting where the public was under the impression that we couldn't account for our dollars and hand it out, and I'm like, we get this every other month that tells us what we're spending on what road. So I just want to put that again out on the public record. We are tracking what we spend on each project, so I'm not sure what they're looking for differently, but did you get a copy of what they handed out to us where it listed the projects 1 through whatever you did not? Okay, I'll get you a copy because I just, again, it was a 10-year history that we had done on all the roads. So it had each of them listed and how much money was spent in the sidewalks and things like that. But I just, for the public, if they're listening again or in the audience, we produce this every 2 months on every project. And we've been doing this for quite a few years. Can't remember how many because it's the love of my life. No, it is. This is the report that really has meaning and tells people what projects too, right? Because it gives the history where people can go back and say, how much did that path cost us? How much did this cost? And all the expenses to that project are posted here. So I just want to make sure everyone's aware of what a great document.
And planned with efficiency in mind.
Absolutely, right? Where you can see by reading this that it's like, hey, if we're going to be here anyway, which kind of goes to what we were talking about earlier, right? Then you try to combine 2 projects or you try to get a better bang for the buck. So, and then when you actually look at these and you see, I really like seeing the funding sources so that people can understand we do a water project maybe at the same time. That goes in to only cut the road once, right? You don't want to do a project and turn around and come back 4 months later and put in a water pipe. So I think our staff is doing a superb job, really, to the best of their ability to use these dollars wisely. And I just wanted to say, keep this report going. It's my
Thank you, Mayor.
internal Bible.
I wanted to also note on our website, we have started posting this on the Transportation Public Outreach and Engagement page of our website. We also have a map of all the active projects on our website. So if anyone wants to see where in the city any of these are, where are we working, you can go to our website, carson.org Transportation Division, and you can see that map of where all these projects are occurring, just as more
And then
visuals.
Is there a place that someone can go and type in their particular address or road or whatever and get the PCI for their road?
We don't have anything that interactive, but we do have the PCI map again on our website. So if all the roads are labeled, you can click on the PDF. It's pretty high resolution. You can zoom in on that and
You can zoom in.
zoom to your street and see the colors. Yes.
Great. Okay. Anybody else of our team have anything to share? No? Okay, then we are on final public comment. Come on up, Denny.
Thank you very much, Denny French, Carson City. Thank you very much for the update on the Carson City wandering skipper. Thank you. I appreciate the efforts that you've gone in to make sure that that wasn't a habitat that would be brutalized unnecessarily if you could find another route. Thank you. I also would like to ask when the workshops were again. I'm sorry, I don't have the dates and such that you were relating to coming up. And as far as the material that you suggest would be open to the public's, opportunities then to be part of. What was that?
So I was referring to our retreat, which
Yes.
will be in February, and we haven't set everything exactly up for that yet, but the RTC is set to meet on Jack with them, I think. No, two different things. 31st is a different one. So, but it will be publicly
Well,
noticed and
I'm
put
just
out.
relieved because I didn't miss it. It hadn't you hadn't gotten it dialed in
No,
yet.
we're gonna have it.
Thank you.
And it'll be sometime in February. I just don't want to
Well,
give the wrong date. 'Cause
well-
I've got 3 of them in my mind and I don't want to give you the wrong one.
Well, it's a relief because I thought I had kept track of that and it wasn't anywhere I could find. Thank you.
Nope, you're most welcome, most welcome. Okay, thank you. And then just information-wise, Sierra Nevada Forums will be reaching out for their May meeting to ask for maybe roads, infrastructure and stuff, reports on where we're going. I don't know if we'll be ready for ballot measures or whatever, but when are we gonna see results from the consultant?
We're targeting late February for our next public workshop.
Okay, late February. See, February's a good month of mine. Okay, just to keep everybody. Leap year? Yeah. Right, that's scary. Don't make any meetings on the 29th. Yeah. What day of the week is the 29th? Yeah. Okay, do I have not seen any other public comment? Okay, then we are adjourned, and thank you all for a great meeting.